Welcome in. This is Hype Factor, a Fantasy Critic podcast for all the Fantasy Critic enthusiasts out there who just can't get enough talking about Fantasy Critic. I'm one of your co-hosts, John32, and I am joined by my good friend Marcus. How are you doing today, my friend?
As I was saying offline, John, things are frantic. It's been one heck of a morning here. I am just. We're gonna get on the podcast just for me to relax for a few minutes and
This is your
chat.
safe space, yeah.
This is my safe space. So I'm looking forward to the discussion today.
Yeah, today we are joined. So this is episode 20, which is great, hitting another milestone for us. And we are joined by a special guest. Many around the Fantasy Critic Discord will know him pretty well. We are pleased to welcome HikarW to the show today, or better known as Matt. How are you doing today, Matt?
I'm doing good. Appreciate you guys having me on. Think this will be a lot of fun.
Yes, and we got a little backstory on the HikarW handle, which is awesome. And we're looking forward to chatting with you because people will know you from having created a pretty stellar draft guide, and we're going to talk all about that as our show topic for today.
Topic of the month.
So, like I said, lots around the fantasy critic community will know you. I think you're an active participant over there, as are we. But for those that are listening that may not be familiar, let me just give a little bit of background. So, Hikar or Matt entered our radar for Marcus and I think at the start of the 2026 season. So, just a couple months back, you shared what was probably, in my estimation, what I have seen the most comprehensive kind of draft guide that's come across my radar. And more than that, which I thought was pretty special, was that you shared it for free with the entire community, including some of your competitors, which I it's a pretty selfless move. So, uh, obviously, Marcus and I have been chatting about it for a while. We wanted to have you on in January because obviously with the draft guide that would have made sense, but just life and all the different things in terms of surrounding Fantasy Critic didn't make that possible. But we were very happy to have you here today because I think it's still very relevant and always a fun exercise kind of look back. So maybe as we kick this off, well, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about one, how you got into Fantasy Critic, and two, kind of what made you make this draft guide.
Yeah, so I made the draft guide because I was just starting my sort of big board rankings in like September or so, and I was kind of just having fun going in depth with it, and kind of just kept rolling with it. Every Sunday, I would kind of take a couple hours and dive into it. Then all of a sudden, I was like, why don't I make this like a fully featured, nice looking, presentable thing? So that's really all it kind of came down to, was just I was having fun making it. I like doing big projects like that. I think it's just rewarding to put a bunch of work into some big random thing. So I was just having fun doing it and sticking with it, and I'm happy people seem to have liked it.
And what about like Fantasy Critic? How did you like first jump in there? Like, what's your kind of history with it?
I've played video games for like my whole life. I've followed the industry a lot, going back to like watching E3s when I was younger. Probably the first one that I like watched the whole thing of was probably like 2014, I'd say, maybe a little sooner. Even just watching, I forget what channel it was on the Wii that just had all the trailers. I would like spend half my summer days just watching all the games on there. And then I'm also a huge football fan and a huge fantasy football player, so I've been playing fantasy football for over 10 years at this point. And then my friend mentioned to me around 2020 or so that Fantasy Critic exists. I was like, oh, that's great. I should absolutely hop on this. So we started a league together, just the two of us. And then two of my other friends joined in. So we've been doing that every year. Haven't won it yet, trying to, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was just absolutely blown away when I saw the guide. You have a little handy. You prepared like a 1-page kind of cheat sheet. It was just like I could not believe somebody had actually taken the time to put all of this stuff together, and again shared it freely with the community. So I'm curious a little bit about the process that you use. I know I seem to remember you talking a little bit about it when you first shared it in the Fantasy Critic Discord, that you've been working on this thing for months to put it all together.
I started in probably like August or September just to kind of get a jump on it because in past years I hadn't started until kind of like the month before, so I figured I'd get a head start on it. Process wise, I really just kind of started off just making a little like write up for each game, and then like I said, it kind of spiraled into something bigger as I was going, just having fun doing it. I mostly just kind of researched each game. A lot of them I knew about because I'm fans of like a game like Resident Evil. I didn't need to learn a lot about it, but there were definitely a ton of games that I didn't know a lot about and that I even thought I knew some about. And then looking into Googling the history of the dev and when it was revealed, stuff like that. Learned a lot more. I think it was cool because there were a lot of games that I thought I was going to be higher or lower on that as I went through and researched, kind of found things as like, oh, this does change my perspective. So it was really informative for me as well. It wasn't just this is exactly where I'm going to put them. I was really kind of figuring out as I went for sure.
And hopefully, I know that you've shared in the Fantasy Critic Discord. I think if you're good with it, I think Marcus and I'd love to post it on our Blue Sky account so that people can
Yeah,
take a look for themselves and actually reference what we're chatting about. So
for
maybe
sure.
around the same time this goes live, we can talk about it because there's a lot that you've included. Like in terms of your analysis, it's not just like a simple ranking or order. Do you want to talk a little bit about like the other things you include in how you organize that data? Because there are a lot of, I think, helpful predictions that you've kind of incorporated.
Yeah. So each there was the cheat sheet, like you said, which is more of just like a quick reference if you wanted like a general quick look at my thoughts. And then each game I gave kind of a write up. I put it in like a Google slide basically. So each slide has the game title, the developer, and then I kind of tiered them out S, A, B, C, and D tier. And then I'd
Mm.
also include info like the release date or the window, or if there was none, that there was none. I put its hype factor in there as well because that's something that I think is really important. When I'm playing fantasy football, I think a lot of people just focus on where is this player gonna, where do you want to draft this player? I think it's really important to consider where everyone else is going to draft that player because during the draft, that list that you see is very psychologically relevant. I think when you see someone just hanging out at the top for a little bit, it's like, oh, maybe this guy should go even though I didn't want to. And I think the same is true for fantasy critics. So that's why I included the hype factor because there were a lot of games that I was like, oh, it's important to not only do I like this game, but it's currently going like outside the top 50 of hype factor, probably not going in a lot of drafts. And I think it's definitely worth picking up. And then I also just did a write up for each game, kind of giving overall my thoughts, what the vibe was, any sort of info about when it was revealed, stuff like that. And then also just the score at the end. I do a floor, a ceiling, and then a best guess, which is just kind of me trying to pinpoint it. I tried my best to not have it just be wide floor and ceiling for a lot of them. I didn't want to just be like 75 to 90 for every game, obviously. But there were some, like Crimson Desert, for example, that I just could not narrow down whatsoever. So,
I mean, we're with you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
yeah.
think we were in the same boat with you.
So I'm curious, which if you can think of any examples that you had thoughts about going into creating your guide that really changed once you started digging deeper.
Yeah, so RE9 was one of them. I had RE9 coming as my seventh ranked game, which a lot of people might be surprised about. I kind of went into it thinking it's GTA, it's Resident Evil, and then it's everything else. But as I kind of looked into it, even just looking at the history for Resident Evil, obviously it came in as an 89, which is probably a little above what I thought it was going to be. But when you look at Village and RE7, those were like mid 80s games.
Mm.
Whereas a lot of people might think about Resident Evil being in the 90s, but that was the RE2 remake and the RE4 remake, which is a little different than
Mhm.
a new game. So I think there's a couple others. Um, Monster Hunter Stories 3 was one I was very high on. I expected to be like maybe 15 to 20. It came out as my ninth overall game, I think, 8 or 9. Yeah, my number 9 game. Gears of War as well. That one was I was expecting to be like 2025. I put that as number 8 just because when I looked at the series pedigree and I was pretty certain it was coming out this year, that one came in a lot higher than I was expecting as well.
Yeah, I think it's super useful, and I also like the floor and ceiling and trying to actually organize your thoughts around that because it goes to the next point, which is for me, I especially liked the tiering structure that you employed. It's like very reminiscent. So you talked about fantasy football. I also play fantasy football. Very reminiscent of, I would say, the more sophisticated draft guides you'd see for fantasy football, where having just a long list of 100 players isn't super helpful. But when you start thinking about obviously positions, but also like in which segment you kind of are trying to kind of pull a player, right? Like when you should be looking like where you're finding real value. And that goes to your earlier point about things kind of sitting at the top of the list. Understanding where things sit in tiers is always visually appealing to me. I actually like if you look at mine, it's nowhere near as sophisticated as yours. It's an Excel sheet, and literally there's just like physical spaces between my segments, and then it kind of stops after the third segment. So like, after round three, it's basically a crapshoot for me.
Yeah.
So I especially liked how you kind of pulled that all together. Maybe I'd ask like how did you, maybe this is the part that's more vibes or more just your general feel of the game, but how did you determine how those games should be segmented? Is it based on a feel, or is it actually like calculated?
It's mostly vibes, but I there's definitely some factors that I take into consideration. What I did after I kind of did the write-ups for most of them is I kind of just put them in a sheet, Excel sheet together, just to kind of see where the numbers fell, so I could kind of see, oh, this is above this game, even though at first I wouldn't have thought it would be. I'm also pretty risk adverse when it comes to the draft, so anything that I have a real concern about not making 2026, I try to avoid. I'm also a little hesitant on indies. I love indie games. I don't want to give that impression. I love playing indie games, but there's a lot of indie games that sometimes just get delay after delay, or they kind of go radio silent. So there's a lot of indie games that I believed in the draft, but not nearly as many in like my top tiers. I would say S tier and A tier are mostly just like S tier was like I feel great about this. I have basically no concerns. A tier is also like in that kind of mid 80s, not really a will not release concern. There's proof that it's worked in the past, not just typically like a brand new
Right.
game for the most part. And then kind
Some
of
level of assurance and
yeah,
comfort and confidence. Yeah.
absolutely. The guy that's something. There were a couple that I did have in A tier like Dust Bloods and Half Life that are kind of mysteries, but most of them are just I feel like this is a pretty safe bet. Even something like Neo 3 is like, yeah, this feels like a known quantity to me. There's not a lot of mystery to that one. There's not really any calculation with it. It's mostly just me looking at it, going on based off what I research. I don't like have an algorithm, but just kind of placing them together, see how it feels. And like you said, I think that's important for when you're drafting to make sure that you kind of stick to a group before you move on to the next group, because there's certain games that like if I get to the draft and like Fire Emblem and Vampire Crawlers I had like right next to each other, I don't really care which one I end up, but if I had to choose
Yeah.
between Fire Emblem and something in the next tier down, that's a much starker contrast for me. So laying that out I think
Yeah.
helps in the draft a lot.
Yeah. That visual representation is huge.
So we're getting closer to the halfway mark of the season, and I was curious, like when you look at your ranges and kind of like your predictions that you've made so far from your guide, how are you feeling about everything?
I feel pretty good for the most part. There's definitely been some L's, but there's been some wins as well. I have like a Excel or a Google sheet that I've been kind of tracking everything. I have like a little grading system I made for myself that just kind of like nailed it close enough, off, and then massive L. There's definitely some that I was spot on. Neo 3 came in exactly where I had it scored.
Yep.
Pragmata, which is currently an 86, I had it as an 85. That was a top 11. That was number 11 for me. Feel really good about that one. Vampire Crawlers, I had as 84, came in as 83. One I felt good about was Reanimal. That was a pretty high one on hype factor. I think it was like close to that. Let me see where I had it set. So Reanimal was my 27th game, but that was like a top 20 hype factor game. And I
Hmm.
thought it didn't have a super high ceiling. And I had like as a 81, 82 was my prediction. That's right where it came in.
Yep.
There's also definitely some L's for sure. I said Pocopia was going to be a 77, that you probably shouldn't draft it, and it's currently like the number one game this year. So
Yeah.
I I think that
Yeah.
one surprised me. I hope it surprised more people than just me. I don't think
It
anyone saw
definitely
the 90
surprised me. I
coming.
think John was a little bit more on
Surprised
that
me.
train. Yeah. But
I thought it could get to like a low 80. Let's not be
yeah.
crazy. I didn't think, and I didn't draft it to
Yeah.
be clear.
Well, I
So
was
I wasn't
close to
really.
putting a do not draft grade on it, and then when I found out it was being made by the Dragon Quest Builders people, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's proof that this has worked. I need to give this a little more respect. But I definitely let my personal bias get in the way because I just thought the Ditto protagonist looked insane. So that's a lesson learned. I feel I'm a little annoyed with myself because my first year of Fantasy Critic, a game I really believed in was Pokemon Legends Arceus at like the back end of
Mm,
drafts. And my thought process was like, well, people love Pokemon. They've done very little to mix up the Pokemon franchise for a long time, and this is literally just anything new. It's probably going to review well. If I had applied that same logic, I probably would have been much higher on Pocopia. So, and then another bad one was I thought High Guard had a shot. I had that as like a late draftable game because I liked that they were doing the same formula as Apex Legends would work. I didn't think it had a high ceiling, but yeah, that game isn't even playable anymore. So that was another bad one for sure.
Were those your biggest surprises of the year? We had we always like to ask, like, what's been the most shocking thing to
Pocopia
date?
for
But those
sure.
are Copia is pretty big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's Pocopia is the main one. I don't think anything else is. So Cairn, I didn't really know about when I hopped in. I love Fury, so I was familiar with that dev, but I didn't know that people were believing in Cairn as hard as they were. I had 85 as its ceiling, and I was projecting more of like a 81, 82, and it came out as an 86 top 10 game on the year so far. So that one surprised me. I didn't look into the demo reception enough for that one. I just kind of went off my own what I saw from the trailers, but people loved that demo and it clearly translated to the game reviewing well as well. I played it as well and loved it. It's an awesome game. I was another one. Good surprise for me is one of the. I try to be risk averse and not put games in draftable that I didn't think were going to come out, but kind of the one that I put in as maybe like a Hail Mary shot for the people that like taking risks at the end of drafts was Stranger Than Heaven. I thought there was a small
Oh,
chance it could come out this year, but I was kind of, if we had known it was coming out 2026, it would have been a top 10 game for me. But I had it as kind
wow.
of the back end of C tier, and I kind of said if people want to take a shot, this is the one I would recommend. And we've seen it, which I didn't know was going to happen in Q1, and now we've got a presentation coming up in a couple weeks. We'll see if they give us a date,
Hmm.
so that could be a good surprise.
This one has not been on my radar. I need to add it. This is great. Yeah, there we go.
So I want to maybe take a little detour off the guide itself. I'm curious how many leagues do you play in, Matt? How are the seasons going for you so far? Are you happy with how things have gone?
This might surprise you. I'm only in 2 leagues. I'm
Okay.
only in that kind of home league that I started with. I think we're in year 5 now. And then when I hopped in the Discord, just kind of looking for people to talk about it with, maybe share the guide with, I found out about Super League. So I'm in Division 5 of Super League. I'm doing
Nice.
okay. I'm not doing incredible. Two of the games that I had in there were Darwin's Paradox and Scott Pilgrim. Scott Pilgrim, I was hoping would be more 83, 84. It came in as a flat 80. And Darwin's Paradox definitely was a bummer. I was hoping that might be more of like a 80, 82. And sometimes those like short story platformers I feel like have a high ceiling. It's at a 76, so that's a bummer. But I got Monster Hunter Stories 3, game I was high on. I got Wolverine and Gears of War E-Day that I think are going to turn out well. And I took a shot on Stranger Than Heaven with my last pick. So if that does come out this year, I think I could be in a good spot. And then in my home league, I hesitate to say this, but I think I'm going to crush them this year.
Yeah.
I got a ton of games that I did not expect to. It's a 4-team league, and we each draft 9 games. And my first 6 picks were Forza, Wolverine, Tokon Fighting Souls, Pragmata, Monster Hunter Stories 3, and Fire Emblem. So
Wow.
I feel like
Yeah.
that's a
Sounds pretty good to
really
me.
strong team. A couple of the other guys have good stuff. One of them has GTA and Half Life, so if that works out in his favor, I could be in trouble. But I think I'm feeling pretty good about that league. Hopefully, I can get it done this year because I've had 2 very narrow losses in back-to-back years.
Sounds like your friends are also pretty like intense when it comes
Yeah,
to Fantasy Critic if they're
it's
putting in that
funny.
much
One
work.
of my
Great.
friends, he follows gaming even more than I do. He's always
Hmm.
got. He was the one that picked up Titanium Court. He's
Mm.
always kind of great at getting the under radar ones. Another one is pretty indie sensitive. Like he had Mio was a game he drafted, which I had as a fringe draftable game, but that definitely panned out for him. So yeah, he's always been. It's definitely a good competition, even for just a 4-team league.
Nice. And sorry, maybe is the guide something that you've built every year over year, or was this the first year that you had like applied this like really
This is
in-depth analysis?
I've never done it even close to this in depth. Last couple years, what I did was just kind of wrote out literally just kind of a tiered. I didn't even really call it SAB. It was kind of like, okay, this is the group,
Yeah.
and then this is the group, and I put like little ranges what I thought for them, and I put a couple as do not draft. So this is
Okay.
definitely the most effort I've put into it. Hopefully it pays off.
I don't know if you have anything else, John, because I have one question that I'd like to end with. For Matt.
Go for it.
So we're only in April. We're at the end of April here as of recording. Have we started planning our guide for 2027 yet?
So I have a Google Doc that has like 20 games in it right now, and that's about it. But
Okay.
at some point I will definitely, I plan to do it again next year. It was super fun, so I definitely want to make it happen next year as well.
Very
Okay,
cool.
awesome. And we'll be sharing, assuming you're still wanting to just kind of give this whole thing away.
Yeah,
we're going to be
absolutely.
sharing the heck out of it, because I think it's such a great resource for people.
Yeah, I'm just having fun doing it, so feel free to share it whenever. I don't need any. Maybe one day if Fantasy Critic blows up and if I could actually charge it,
start a
people would pay
website.
it, maybe.
Yeah.
But right now I'm just having fun doing it, discussing it. It's been fun for me. It's fun to track through the year.
You can be the roto world of Fantasy Critic.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And even, I know it looks bad, but I even have fun when Pacopia makes me look really wrong. I think it's fun to take those lessons and learn going forward as well.
I think that I don't want to speak for you, John, but I don't mind being wrong, because we're putting our opinions out there all the time. On every episode we do, we're putting out lots of guesses and stuff, and I'm happy for people to call me out on stuff if they have differing opinions. We can see what happens at the end. I think, like, generally we're doing better than the average person, and really all we're doing is trying to we're having fun with this, and we want to encourage more people to do this and have fun with this game that Steve created, that we're all really big fans of. So
yeah,
I like being wrong. I'm not trying to be wrong, but I don't mind being wrong, I guess maybe is a better way to say it.
Yeah, that's a good way.
I like taking it really seriously, but I also don't ever take it personally if something I say goes wrong. I'm just having fun putting it out there, and if it works or it doesn't work, I'm still glad that I put in the effort regardless.
Yeah. And I can't speak so highly of any higher of this guide, because we kind of we love that anybody who wants to listen to Hype Factor, but we really do gear this for people who are interested in the game, but maybe need a little bit extra information, or they don't have the time to kind of really delve in. This isn't really intended for people who are in Super League. People in Super League know more than John and I. We're just these schmucks that happen to do a podcast about this. Super League, they don't need our help, but it's everybody else that could maybe use a little bit, and having that one page document just to kind of put out there, just to give people a starting point, is just super valuable.
Yeah. And it's also just my opinion too. So people can always look at, oh, this is what this one guy thinks. This is what the Hype Factor says. So maybe he's varying a little bit. It's just another resource to have, because I think a lot of people, when they're starting Fantasy Critic for the first time, it's like, I don't even know what to think of this Hype Factor list. What is Trails doing in the top 10? For new players, that's confusing. But
yeah, very good point. And I know I would have benefited from something like this when I first started. And I think you got the right attitude. So on the whole thing, the whole thing has been awesome. And it's been great chatting. I want to thank you for joining us today and for agreeing to stick around. This has been awesome. Really great getting your insights.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me. I did want to do one thing before we moved on, if that's cool.
Yeah,
so you guys are both in Division 6 of Super League, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
So I figured I might as well pop in and take a look at you guys' teams, and I wrote down how it looked according to the guide. So Marcus, you're the team that got Saros with your first pick, right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, so that was a good pick. I've got that number 5. I do like a couple of your other picks. Reanimal I was lower on, but you got it 25-ish, I think, in the draft. So that's about where I had it ranked. And then you've got Mixtape and Well Dweller, which I thought were good picks as well. The other two you had, I didn't end up getting around to ranking. There were some games that I meant to rank and just kind of ran out of time. I have 100 games in the guide, but Planet of Lana and TR49 were a couple I didn't get around to. Those were good picks. So I think you're in a decent spot for sure. I like the At Fate's End counter.
You do. I'm a little worried about this. Okay, tell me about it.
I had At Fate's End as a do not draft game, and I thought I was on an island until I listened to the podcast and heard you were nervous about it too. So I'm glad that we have
Okay.
somebody else is out there with me. I'm
Wow.
worried it's not
Okay.
going to make this year because
That's what I'm holding on.
yeah,
That's what I'm holding on to at this point. Yeah.
maybe I'm scarred from last year because there were so many indie games that got pushed, like Cairn, Mouse, Mina, uh, just to name a few. But I'm worried about it making this year, and I also just don't think it looks as compelling as Spiritfarer. I think Spiritfarer is a very like one of a kind video game, so I don't think At Fate's End ceiling is as high as some people might think. But yeah, and then
Well,
if we go to,
I
no, you
love
go
to
ahead.
hear that. I love to hear it. No, because I felt very nervous very shortly after I made that pick because I was like, I don't think this game looks that good. I looked at I mentioned before in the podcast, but they've done a 2D platformer in the past called Sundered,
Mhm.
which did not score. It was pretty mediocre. So that was kind of the rationale. But then, like, and especially more recently, hearing people who played it at what was it, GDC,
I think so.
something, yeah, and everybody like well, the people that I heard were raving about the game.
Which
So
surprises me because I thought the combat looked very slow and unremarkable. And Spiritfarer is a game without combat, if I'm
right,
correct. So it's
yep,
definitely a different. It's not necessarily just going to get the score Spiritfarer did because Spiritfarer got it, obviously. So I'm kind of with you on that one. Ontos, just need that to not come out. If it comes out, we're
exactly,
screwed. But
yep,
hopefully it
yep.
cannot come out. And then let me scroll to John's team. So
No, no,
John,
I
you
don't.
had
I'm not in love with my team.
all
We'll
6
see.
of your games were on the draft guide, which is
Oh, that's good.
nice
There you
because
go.
a lot of people in Super League take indies I had never even heard of, stuff like Virtue and a Sledgehammer or the remake of the greatest RPG of all time. Just games
Yeah.
that I've just never heard of, and now I'm like, oh, this seems neat. I'm too scared to draft it, but it seems cool. Yeah, so you got Fire Emblem with your first pick. That's higher than I would have taken it because that's probably what like pick 9 or 10. But I still think,
Something like that.
yeah, I still
I
think
had it
that's a
over
good
Half
one.
Life because I didn't trust the Half Life.
Yeah,
I didn't trust the Half Life to come out.
if anyone hasn't seen the guide and reads one game that I wrote up on, read Half Life because I just that game put me in a blender. I put it in A tier, and I even say maybe when draft day comes, I probably just won't even draft it at all because I'll be too scared. That's that one's a mystery for sure. But you got how do you feel about Duskbloods? Because Duskbloods is an
Not
interesting one.
great. Well, actually, let's talk about it. I was trying to move it in a trade all of last week.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then I'm being offered trades right now as we speak. Things are coming in. I'm happy. Like Discord is pinging, so I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm trying to get the trades moving. So Duskbloods, no, the reason I was trying to move it was because we haven't heard anything,
Yeah.
and the last thing we heard was about Elden Ring not being so great on Switch 2. So it caused me a lot of fear and panic. Truthfully, I was trying to move it, not to give too much of my thinking, but because I've been making some other moves that may need to be drops, and I need to be able to drop stuff, and I
Gotcha.
can't have too many games without dates.
For sure.
Um, but I will say that more recently I started doing some digging on it because I was like, I need to know what's going on with this game. There's been some movement on Duskbloods that I wasn't even on my radar. I think it has been, I think it got some age ratings in a couple places. It showed up on the eShop for
Yeah.
pre-order in some jurisdictions. I was like, oh, okay, actually things are moving a little bit in the right direction. It's trending properly. Maybe I should see this how this plays out over the next 2 months. It's just you got to do it before the direct, or else it's going to be dead weight, right?
For
If the date
sure.
doesn't land. So I
Yeah.
was trying to
Duskbloods.
buy in on the FOMO and
Yeah.
people's unsure what to do with it. But
Yeah, Duskbloods is the longest write up I had by far because there's so many points against it and there's so many points for it, and I
yeah,
have no
it's a little
idea
bit of
which
an
one to
unknown.
believe.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, that was another one too I mentioned. I tried to get my floor and ceilings pretty tight. I have a floor of a 77 and a ceiling of a 90. So that one
Yeah,
I have
that's
no
about
idea how
right.
to make it any smaller than that.
Yeah, no, that's about right. Yeah,
Yeah. And then you've got Phantom Blade Zero, which I'm not super high on, but you got it about where I would have valued it draft wise a little higher. And Super Meat Boy, I had a do not draft. It's only got you 6 points, but it could have been
yeah,
worse
that's
for sure.
should
That's
have
the same
taken that
thing I got
advice.
from Darwin. So
Yeah.
And then Yoshi and Big Walk is I think that's really good. I don't like Yoshi games. They are stupid, and Nintendo should
Yeah.
stop making them, in my opinion, until they do something interesting. But I do think it's going to get an 80 because the last two also got 80s for some reason. So that's good
That was
value
the
in Super
logic.
League. And you got Opus, so congrats on that. That was not on my
Yeah.
radar, and that's been a huge review.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one in a little bit when we get to like looking back at the month that was. It's a bit of a I won't take too much credit for it. You'll hear my thoughts in a minute. But no, thank you for that. Like, honestly, like and some of those insights I think probably would have been helpful, especially with something like Super Meat Boy looking back. But I was also drafting at the mall, so I don't feel too bad about,
I placed
as
one of my
as the
draft picks at a stoplight, so
yeah,
I wasn't
exactly.
100% locked in for the whole draft for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so thank you again, and yeah, let's check out the news.
Let's get into the news.
Okay, so there's some news this month. We did have an Xbox partner showcase some time ago now. I'm not gonna go through too much. Maybe just a couple of them because there was a lot of either inconsequential fantasy critic things or a lot of 2027 things. So maybe I'll just stop at things that I think are relevant, and you guys can chime in, add to it if need be. The first one being Grave Seasons. So Grave Seasons was shown at this partner direct or partner showcase, and it did have an August 14th release date revealed. So I know that's been picking up some hype recently. And from people that have played the demo or gone hands on, have been talking pretty positively about it. So, Marcus, I think you've picked this up some places, so maybe I'll let you talk to it first.
Well, yeah, I mean, you basically have said it. I'm cautiously optimistic. I picked it up in Super League, and
Mm,
it's pretty thin out there in Super League. There's not a ton out there, and I was like, I still have a few games that I need to get on my roster. I had more empty spots than I wanted, so I'm like, I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I really liked what I was hearing about it after. I think it had a did it have a demo for Steam Next Fest? It certainly was, it was on PAX East. People were played it at PAX East
that's East.
recently.
Hmm.
So people were talking pretty positive. I like the kind of the spin on maybe the Stardew Valley formula, kind of adding in a bit of a darker element to this cutesy art style. I like that it seems like it's doing something a little bit different. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I feel like the floor is pretty high, with the possibility of maybe low to mid 80s. But probably you're probably looking at kind of I don't know. I'm hopeful that we could be like an 80, 81, 82 sort of deal.
The pixel art for
Yeah.
that game looks awesome. Both
Yeah.
just like the regular style of the game, and then also when you talk to NPCs, the portraits of them that come up, it's a really pretty pixel art game.
Yeah. Pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. I think it's a good little pickup. Um, Super Meat Boy got shown at that showcase with I don't know if it had the date beforehand of March 31st, but they flagged the March 31st date, and obviously we know didn't do so hot, but anyway, it was there. The one I do want to talk about though is an Annapurna game called Forever Ago, which just has a fall window. And for those that watch the showcase, you may remember this as kind of a very emotionally driven narrative game,
That's
journey
almost an
game. It sounds like they
understatement.
call
It was
yeah,
a crazy trailer.
yeah.
Old guy like reliving his life. I've never seen a game doing that sort of emotional pull like that. So that one's got a crazy narrative.
I will say that when I saw that, I worried a little bit about that Opus Prism Peak, which you just flagged has, sitting at a 90. They have very similar vibes, different gameplay about like kind of looking back on a life that was and really pulling at emotional heartstrings. So I was like, oh damn, is this the Annapurna version of the game that's actually the one I should have picked up? So still happy with where Prism is. There's a lot of similarities in the analysis that was going into that with this game here. I don't know if I'm ready to pick it up, but I definitely think as a fall window, it could end up being something relevant for someone as the season is kind of like taking, to the tail end. Marcus, did you see this trailer? Did you have
I feel like we've seen this game before. Like I feel like I've seen it before. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I'm mixing it up with something else. But yeah, I mean, I would agree that this has some potential. I'm not quite ready to pick it up just yet. We've done an episode on Annapurna. They kind of fall under the kind of that high 80s or the low 70s range, and there's very few that are in between. So that would probably be my bigger hesitancy, is like, is this one of those middling Annapurna games, or is this one of those top tier ones? I think I need to see a little bit more, but it has a potential for sure.
Yeah. And then the last one I wanted to flag, at least on my list from the showcase, was a 2027 game. But Matt, as you're starting to build your list, Artificial Detective was shown, as closed out the showcase. This was a cool ass looking game. I don't know what it is, but for anybody that watched the showcase, it had like this like futuristic vibe, lots of kind of bot and kind of, I guess you're a detective that's also some sort of cyborg. I don't even know, but it looked very cool. It had a very futuristic look and style, different than anything else I think we've seen. Any thoughts on this one?
The trailer looked wild, but I don't think we saw a ton of gameplay.
No.
So
No.
I'm always really hesitant, especially for Fantasy Critic, but also just in general, to buy into any trailer where it's mostly CG. The CG trailer was cool, seems like a cool world, but there's still a lot unknown. I don't even remember who's developing this game. I think it might be like a new studio.
That's a good flag. I don't remember either.
Yeah, on Steam it says it's Vivix Incorporated. They don't have anything else on the Steam page, so I think it might be a debut title.
A bit risky, but it did sure as heck look cool. So that was a showcase. Nothing, I wouldn't say anything too mind-blowing with regards to Fantasy Critic. The other kind of show that we saw over the past month was something that Marcus and I were hyping up a little bit last time on the last episode of Hype Factor, which is the Triple I initiative. So there was some stuff here that I think is worth chatting about. So they did show Castlevania Belmont's Curse, but no date still, which is concerning because I do have that in one of my leagues.
I don't think it's concerning. I don't think they were ever going to reveal the date at the Triple I initiative.
Yeah, hoping for Summer Game Fest,
and
I guess.
You just saw more of a game that looks fucking awesome. So
I agree.
I think, yeah.
I think there's a chance that we look back and maybe Summer Games Fest doesn't have any massive reveals, and it turns out Belmont's Curse was like the game you should have spent your whole budget on in bidding. I think it looks great.
I hope so. I have it in one of my leagues. So we teased, or Marcus teased, the 1,000 times resist devs doing something special at Triple I, and they did not disappoint. So Prove You Are Human is a game that probably is coming out in 2027. I don't see anything suggesting 2026, or earliest 2027. And it's 1,000 times resist dev and Tabby Cat Studios, which is, I think, Slay the Spire, Slay the Princess dev. Yeah, really great narrative and strong writing group, both based out of Canada, just because we're there and I'm familiar with both of these. So them doing something jointly here is pretty damn exciting.
And that trailer again, is something insane. Maybe to keep.
Right.
I didn't
even know what to say about
this
game. Yeah, except I want to play it, and given the pedigree, I'll probably be bidding on this at some point or drafting it even.
I'd be pretty surprised if this comes this year, but this is probably, if we get any sort of concrete, even window, this would be like top pickup for next year. This is right up there because 1,000 times resist, what, 88, 89?
Yeah,
89, the hype for this, and it's the kind of the narrative around 1,000 times resist has only grown in the time that it's released. So this is a absolute slam dunk.
And Slay the Princess reviewed really well too. So that's two proven novel studios. I think that has huge potential, even though I have no idea what the game is.
Right. 100%.
The problem is there is a little bit of expectations, might be a little bit high. Maybe that sets the unreasonable expectations on them, but I'm still excited for it either way. I'm happy to throw my support there regardless. So super cool. Good delivery on that promise. There's Karen DLC coming in the summer that will be free. That's interesting. I'm still going to avoid it. I'm not going to be caught out by this DLC trap. But
do we know, has this been added to the Fantasy Critic website?
I don't I don't know.
If it is,
I don't know.
avoid this one. I think there's a
I might
very
add
real
it
risk
just as
that
a
it doesn't
trap.
get enough
I might just,
reviews. Yeah,
I
I might
agree.
ask Steve to add it just to trap people. You know. I think this one is super relevant here, though. The next one, Neverway, which we've talked about in the past in the show, with an October 2026 date. So I think that raises its profile. It's kind of great that it has a date. I'm happy. I do have it. I did pick it up uh, in one of my leagues. So
I'm torn on Neverway because
okay.
I had it as a do not draft game, but I had it in like a section where I in the write ups it's like put this on your watch list because I
Mm.
think if we do get a date that it's definitely worth bidding on. I just
mm,
wasn't sure we were going to see it. And October is still pretty far from now, so I wouldn't bid on it yet, especially after last year. I'm
it's pretty
just
late. Yeah.
so many indies got pushed from like October to January or April. So I think if we get to September and there's a date,
Good point.
it's they're still holding with it. Maybe I would bid on it, but right now I also counterpicked it in Super League because
Uh,
even though I think the game looks really cool, that was my
Mm.
second counterpick. I was trying to get a 0 there, so now I'm
mm.
rooting against it, even though it's a game I thought looked really cool. But
I think I have this in one league. I think it looks great. I think that I'm not super worried. This has been kind of in the works for a little while. I'm not super worried it'll get pushed. I guess it depends a little bit on your league rules, how easy it might be for you to drop something
yeah,
if it doesn't have an official push to next year. But I'm quite optimistic about Neverway. I'm happy that I own it, and I think it's just the one league. But yeah,
that's the pixel artist from Celeste is doing that game, right? So
yeah.
it's incredible visuals. I'm pretty sure it's only a 3-person team though, so
Mm.
if they get like we're pushing it to
Mm.
Q1 Q2 next year, I wouldn't be surprised one bit.
Yeah, they did release the prologue with
Yeah.
at this
There was
on the date of the showcase here. I'm not sure I've looked into or seen anybody talk about their experience. Is that where you're going, John?
there's been some people talking about it. I mean, I still don't think they know how to talk about it. It's like it's blowing a lot of people's minds, and I think people are
Mm.
expecting a lot. Like they want more of it. So the prologue wasn't enough to satisfy. It did pique interest though. So it's not
Mm.
negative, but it definitely was different, and definitely they're excited to play the game. So
Okay.
It's a game that's trying
yeah,
to do a lot.
yeah,
It's trying
mm,
to
Yeah.
do horror
interesting one.
and
Very
life
divisive.
sim and I
Mm,
think sort of like action combat as well. So hopefully they can deliver on all of that. But anytime you're trying to do that many things, I think it introduces a little bit of risk in terms of Fantasy
Totally.
Critic.
Next one, Machine Party. Marcus, do you want to talk about this one? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's relevant because of the developer, Mike
Yes.
Klubnika, who has recently put out games. He puts them out a pretty good clip. Last year he did a game called Split. The year before it was Buckshot Roulette. Both I believe are an 83. This Machine Party though is like a dark, like kind of gruesome Mario Party style game. So I don't know about that. I wanted to flag it because I did mention it last episode with Garrett. And it's coming out this year. I'd be pretty confident that this Q3 date is accurate. So it's something to be aware of. I'm not sure I would be willing to take a chance on a party game of this style, but the dev has done well in the past and pretty consistently well. So it's something to consider, I guess.
It's a really fun,
Mm.
unique idea. It's not just like gruesome just to be. I like there's a mini game where they're like trying to smoke a cigarette as fast as possible. I think it's pretty funny. The it's weird though
Yeah.
with like you can call them friend slop games or whatever, however you want to term it. Sometimes these games go viral and they get big, and then it's like peak where it reviews well, and sometimes they drop and no one says a word about them, and they don't review super well, and then it's on to the next thing. I think
Yeah.
it's got a shot for sure, though. I would put it on the watch list.
And then, so this takes place, all of his games take place in this dystopian universe. So you don't have to understand, like the story of one doesn't go into the next, but they're all taking place in this dystopian, pretty shitty kind of
PS1 ugly
gross.
graphics.
Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah. So we played Split last year for our other show, and yeah, kind of learned a little bit more about his games.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was an interesting showcase, that's for sure. There was a lot of other stuff shown, but a lot of DLC, a lot of early access, so we're
A
going to skip all
lot
that.
of early access.
A lot of co-op stuff too,
Yeah.
co-op multiplayer stuff,
Yep.
which isn't really my thing. So, and not great typically for fantasy critics.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I was kind of hoping for more, to be honest. For that would be fantasy critic relevant.
Okay, there was also a whole host of other news that got announced this past month or so. So first up, Titanium Court gets dated, kind of leaked and then dated for April 23rd. So as we're recording this, I think we are anticipating that by the time this goes live, we will have scores for that game, which are going to be really
I
interesting.
would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now
Yeah.
on Open Critic, it's got 2 reviews. One of them's a 4.5 out of 5, and the other is from PC Gamer. It's a 74 out of 100. But it kind of
Ooh,
sounds
there you
like
go.
they're going to be the only ones pushing back against it. I think it's probably going to end up in like the mid 80s.
Yeah,
Hmm.
interesting though. Interesting that it's that they went that low. It's very possible.
Yeah. PC Gamer also just gave a 5 out of 10 to Vampire Crawlers, so they're on a
Yes,
they're
I
on a
saw
tear
that.
this
Yes,
I
week.
saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting times. Rhythm Heaven Groove got dated July 2nd. Okay, there we go. From rumor to reality, the Black Flag remake, it might be happening. Yeah, tomorrow. So as we're talking tomorrow, there
okay.
will be a release video or trailer of some kind. They're going to talk about it. I don't know. It's a real thing. We still don't know when, I guess, or what it looks like. But again, by the time this is live, people will be or have seen it, and potentially it may have a date. We talked a little bit about it on the last episode. Marcus, you're a little bit lower on it. I think I've seen the bidding for it go up this past
Mhm.
week as the rumors have become more solidified and real. I don't know. Until we see it, I don't know if there's much to say here, but
Yeah,
I gotta try it.
I'm in a void on this. I'm curious where you stand, Matt.
So I've kind of started to develop a reputation in the Fantasy Critic Discord for being just anti-remake in general. I didn't include any remakes in the guide because I think it's boring to just go, this game was good and they're doing it again but prettier. And games also get weird when it's reviewing a remake because it's like, are they reviewing it as a standalone game or are they reviewing it as this is the same thing, just how much better does it look, how much did they change? That's being said, Black Flag is like, people have been begging for this remake for a long time. I'm curious to see what type of remake it is. How those leaked screenshots that have come out don't seem super transformative, but I think it. I would wait at least until we see it, obviously, but I think it'll probably be fantasy relevant, maybe a decent pickup.
There was also rumors at some point, and this is connected in some ways, that there was going to be a Sony State of Play this month. I haven't seen anything solidified. I had heard it was going to be like third party. I think they were saying that the Black Flag thing might have shown up there, but we're still waiting. So nothing on that front.
It never passed the sniff test to me because they had such a crazy state of play in like January or February. That was maybe
Yeah.
the best state of play ever. And then when I saw
Yes.
that rumor, it's like, when are they going to do
With
that
lots
and
of third
something
party
in June,
support,
July?
like with
Yeah.
Konami and everybody else, and it's like, what is it?
What's
What
left?
this is not needed. This is not needed in
Yeah.
April. Stop it. Nobody needs to hear from you until June. Just stop.
Exactly.
On the other end of the spectrum, we do need a direct soon. Like, what the hell? But okay, so breaking down some of this news. So Nate the Hate, everybody's heard this already. Nate the Hate had his podcast a little while ago, a couple weeks back, where lots of things were speculated and leaked, presumably, including a Star Fox game coming out this summer, a new Star Fox game coming out this summer. He predicted that Mario, a new 3D Mario, would not be out this year, but maybe 2027, I guess. So not 2026. And the big news that Zelda, a new Ocarina of Time remake / hopefully cross fingers reimagining, will be coming out late this year for the holiday season in 2026. Some of the other things he predicted was around, I think, the Rhythm Heaven Groove. I can't remember if that was part of it. For sure, Splatoon Raiders being a summer release, which newsflash, it just happened. So they just
Yep.
got dated yesterday for July 23rd. So Splatoon Raiders now officially, we've seen what it looks like in terms of gameplay. We've seen a date. So all those things taken together with regards to Nintendo, what do you all think? I can tell you what I think, but you can also just look at my Fantasy Critic profile on Super League. But I
Yeah,
will explain
I
my
saw
thinking in a
you.
minute. Yeah.
You're a believer.
Yeah, I'm going all in on Nintendo in my Division 6 here. It's just basically all Nintendo all the time, and we're going to see how that works out. I'll explain my thinking in a second, though. You guys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton. Like, I'm not the Nintendo guy, as we have established on the show. So I did pick up Star Fox in one league. I feel like that's a pretty safe-ish bet. I ended up dropping Half-Life 3 for it. We have unlimited transactions
Yeah.
in that league. So, but yeah, I mean, I didn't have Splatoon Raiders in any league. I haven't snagged Zelda in any league. So I don't know. I kind of wait and see with all this stuff, but I feel like Star Fox is a pretty safe bet. I don't know what we're gonna see with Zelda. Is it possible that this doesn't come this year?
Yeah.
Like
Is that
Zelda, it's
yeah,
always
like-
possible.
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't know.
What about you, Matt?
So I'll take it one at a time. Splatoon Raiders getting a date was awesome. That was the number 79 game at Hype Factor, and I had it 25 on my draft rankings. That was one I'm just like, Splatoon is good. Splatoon spinoff, whatever it is probably going to be good, is pretty much my analysis. I think that's the other Splatoon games are 81, 83, 83. I think it's probably going to land right in that range. Zelda, it's going to be really interesting to see if it shows up and what it looks like when it shows up. If, as a huge fan of Zelda in that game in particular, they can give me literally anything and I'll play it and love it. But for Fantasy Critic purposes, depending on your tags, that's probably going to be one of the most contested. Where does this one line up for remake, reimagining, obviously? And then also, I know this is a remake, but the last 4 mainline Zeldas have been delayed. And if this is a real reimagining, then there's always a chance that they reveal it, and then a couple months later, we need a little more time. So, and also, I just don't like remakes in general. I mean, it's literally the highest reviewing game of all time. It's just boring to have that as an option in Fantasy Critic to me, but that's just me. And then for Star Fox, good luck to anyone who wants to put money on a Star Fox game we haven't seen yet, because Star Fox might be one of Nintendo's IP, but the last one was not very good. Arguably, there's only one good Star Fox game, and it's 64, which is the one that was a remake of the SNES one. And then they tried to remake it again on the Wii U with bad controls, and it didn't work. There was Adventure, which was kind of a weird spin-off that was originally maybe a different IP, as I understand it. So Star Fox is not exactly a like top dog performer in terms of reviews from Nintendo. So if we see it and it looks awesome, then yeah, maybe I'll put some money down on it. But putting money on it sight unseen is not something I would do personally, because that's not a series like Xenoblade or Fire Emblem or even Mario and Zelda where it's like, yeah, this is gonna land every time.
How much did you bid on it, Marcus, out of curiosity?
It wasn't much. It wasn't
Okay,
much.
you
A few
got it
bucks. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
And if you're in
I think
unlimited drops, then that's a totally different
Okay,
thing.
it's
You might
16
as
or
well put it on
17.
there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because so part of this is strategy, and part of this is like once Opus came out, it actually like changed some of my thinking on this. So it's like maybe a little bit of strategy of playing from the middle. So if I was at the top, I probably wouldn't make these moves. If I was at the bottom and I was just worried about like whatever relegation or just not ending at the bottom, I may not make these moves. But playing from the middle, it was like if you wanted if I don't see with my construction in Division 6 a way to win necessarily, because if there are some top games that get shown at Summer Games Fest, everybody's gonna be bidding on them, right? So you would have to like really spend the entire budget on some stuff. So it was really the logic of a couple things. One, with Star Fox, I agree, Matt. I think just the hype around the movie, like they're going to have the game. I'm pretty confident it's going to come out. And it is a bit of an open question as to what it is and how it scores. I don't think this is probably their final chance to save that franchise and IP. Like they can't release another
You're probably
game,
right.
right? So I think just like from that perspective, it was like, okay, willing to give it a flyer. It's going to come out. It could have some hype behind it in the summer, and Nintendo probably has a vested interest in doing like fairly decently for nostalgia, but also like to keep the franchise alive. So maybe they're putting some extra effort into it. With Zelda, I think this is where the real risk is, specifically for Division Six. The remakes are not eligible,
Yeah.
so it would have to be a true reimagining. But from everything I've heard, I'm willing to take that chance. I got it for like $3. It's a risk because if they do show something that is a true reimagining, obviously again everybody's gonna want to bid for it. So this was definitely playing from the middle, as an outside chance to like pull ahead if all the stars line up. Now I will say, like, this game did have an HD uprise on 3DS, right? So like if they are going to do this and it's not just a port, it really doesn't make sense to just do like a generational remake of this game. I know it's going to piss a lot of people off, but I see them doing at least something differently, either adding to it story wise or adding to it in some capacity. Some people have said they may do the Breath of the Wild thing to it, which a lot of people don't want to see, but maybe there's some sort of middle ground. So I am banking on that. Yeah, it's just purely strategy. I think if you have unlimited drops, it's worth holding. Like I think that's for sure. It was gone in all the other leagues, right? And Super League was the only one because there's such a narrow window for it to have to slide through. But yeah, I think your risk analysis is spot on. But yeah, I
But at
think
the
it
same
really
time, you're
depends
trying to
on.
win. You don't
Well,
want to
this is the
just
thing,
finish in eighth
right?
place.
Like,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of like, there's only so many indie games that nobody knows about that you can like pick up and hope that they land like something like an Opus did. My other ones have not landed, right? They're
Yeah.
floundering in the mid 70s, and so it's like if you're gonna pull ahead or try and make a shot, you kind of have to take some swings. So, like I said, if I was at the bottom, I probably would just want like some safer picks to like round out a roster to have maybe a decent showing. This is just like, if we're going to do something, I got to do it. So understanding the full risk, because a lot of people are, I think, of your mindset, Matt, on this, especially in Super League, that it's not worth it. But there's a couple of people that have bought. I think they're trying to get in early, and I think it is a reflection of where their standings are. Yeah. Anyway, that's my defense of my position. You know.
Makes sense.
Okay, Marcus, do you want to talk about the next one? I watched the preview last night, which is Motor Slice with a May 5th release date.
Yeah, I've seen some people within the indie community. 6-1 Indie had done a preview on this. People seemed excited about it. It just got a date. There was a publisher showcase, Top
Yes.
Hat,
Top Hat.
I think.
Looked cool.
Yeah, and so yeah, they just released a date. It might be something if you're looking for an indie game. I think that has a pretty solid floor, probably mid to high 70s as a absolute floor. Probably not a huge ceiling, and probably low 80s as a ceiling. But it might be something if you're looking and you want something for the next releasing in the next few weeks. So
I thought it looked
that's
cool.
what I was thinking with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought so too. I didn't know what it was until I looked it up.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool visual style.
Yeah.
Looks interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I was paying attention to this thing. I didn't watch the showcase, but I was paying attention because I had caught that Kyle Thompson, the developer for Well Dweller,
Yes.
was announcing something at
shown.
this showcase, and I was like, okay, maybe we got a date. It turns out he just released a demo, which I think was a PAX East demo that he had on the show floor. But it probably is a good sign that it's still coming this year, I would think. But yeah, no date for Well Dweller as of yet.
And last on this list, Metro 2039 has a winter 2026 date. I mean, I've seen the bids for this go up. People are picking it up. It's very late in the year. I mean, could get delayed, but could also land. Be a nice late year addition.
I added it in Super League with some of the same justification you had. I hadn't filled out much of my roster. I got outbid on a couple things, and then I bid on Pokemon, and then we got a trailer that said it was coming out next year, which really surprised me, so I had to drop that.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really high floor if it comes out in 2026, but obviously, especially with GTA hanging around in the winter, it is scary whether or not that is going to come out. But like you said, I'm trying to win too, so I thought that was a risk I was willing to take in Super League, and I only put like $6 on it, so I didn't overextend on it.
Yeah, looks cool. Yeah. Well, That's all the news. Let's get into the hype check.
Hype check.
Lots of games that came out, really shaping the season so far. Mario Wonder Meetup in Mirabel Park, which we talked a little bit about last time, sitting at an 86. Very good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good score. Yeah.
Yeah. For those leagues that allow DLC or Director's Cut. Life is Strange Reunion, on the other hand, all the way down to a 73, which I think, Marcus, is where you kind of had nodded it.
I think Garrett and I had I think he said 73,
I think he might have
which
been
I
on the
was
dot.
going to say, and so I took the under. I remember saying 72, so right about where I was expecting, and a little lower than you were expecting, if I remember, John.
Yeah, and Matt, this probably was more recent news, so it's probably not even in the draft guide, right? Like, I don't think you
It
have
was
this one
announced
broken
in
down.
like February, I think.
Yeah.
It was scary at first. I was like, don't bid on this because I got burned on the last Life is Strange. And then for the first few days, it was like at 85. I was like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
they've done it. They fixed
Yes.
it. And then more people, more reviews trickled in and it tanked.
That's a very good point. That started very high and then went all the way down.
Some of us in the Discord are like, are you serious? Like, no one expected that.
Well, there was a disconnect with the score from what I was reading on like Blue Sky in terms of like people's impressions of it. So, Grime 2, which Marcus has been hyping for a bit, 83, pretty good. Probably,
very
good.
Yeah, right about where I thought it would be. Yeah.
Super Meat Boy 3D at 76, which is definitely lower than where I thought it was going to land. I thought this had probably like an 80, like probably at an 80, maybe slightly lower than the original.
I think I had it at a 74 for my best guess in the guide and a ceiling of 77. So, and I had it as a do not draft title, so that worked out for me.
Yeah, that's very close.
It was around 30, 35 in hype factor too, which I thought was way too high personally.
Yeah, that's the one thing, like following that. I don't know. Anytime you get that 2D to 3D transformation is a little bit of a risk. Fishbowl, which is another one that, Marcus, you've been chatting up a bit, 80 on the dot. Pretty good for that little indie title.
Yeah, I think is about as good as it could have done,
to
be honest. Like the type of game that it is, those games don't tend to have a huge ceiling, but people that have played it have really talked pretty positively about it. So happy for the team.
Yeah, Dosa Divas, which I had been pretty high on, sitting at a 74, although this keeps fluctuating. It just dropped down from 76 to 74. I mean, from the people that play it, they keep saying they love it, but I guess it's just not enough critically to kind of get it where it needs to be. So maybe a bit of a disappointment there. This is an interesting one. Replaced. So Replaced is at 78. I'm curious, Matt, where did you have this one? Because
I had this in B tier. I tried my best to be objective with all the games I ranked, and Replaced is probably the one game where I just let my emotions go a little too far because I loved how it looked when it was first unveiled. It was funny because my first year of Fantasy Critic, I lost, and I lost because I lost, but I joke that I lost because Russia invaded Ukraine because I had Replaced and Stalker 2 and Advance Wars, and all of those games got pushed because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
That's a crazy story, but I love that.
Devs I was really rooting for. I really want to check this game out. The pixel art's incredible, but I think especially after the demo impressions came out, people were kind of like, this isn't super grabbing me. So I had it as an 84 for my best guess. That was probably letting my heart make that guess instead of more of my analysis.
The results are a bit mixed. I think people are having that same. It looks really cool and people really love the way it looks, but maybe just a little bit too slow. Gecko Gods sitting at 76. Another kind of indie game that was getting a little bit of traction earlier. This is interesting. Tamagotchi Life went up a point, sitting at 80. So Nintendo sticking with their 80s this year.
Yeah. Higher than I was expecting.
I had it as
a
75. Yeah. So it was a little better than I was expecting.
Yeah. Okay. Opus Prism Peak. This is a news story. Sitting at a 90, just dropped down from 91. For a minute there, it was the highest scoring game of the year, but I kind of fully expected it to drop a little bit. You mentioned I have it on my team. Yeah, I was telling Marcus this by text, like as happy as I am that I have it in 2 of my leagues, I didn't fully expect it to hit a 90 based on the research I had done. Like the previous entries in the series were basically like high 70s, maybe. What attracted me to it was like some of the narrative around it. Like it was very like emotionally driven game. It looked really pretty. Some of the ideas very kind of cozy-ish, but with a really strong narrative. And then like photography, gameplay mechanic that I think tied into the story really well. I kind of was predicting it maybe low 80s. I would have been happy, honestly. Low to mid 80s, maybe like 85 as a ceiling if I was lucky. So this is like unexpected positive surprise, but everybody that's played it has kind of echoed this. So, you know, uh, I don't know.
And it's at 20 reviews, so it's not like one review is going to tank it. That's going to be a really good ad in Fantasy Critic.
Yeah, there've been a lot of consistency around where people have placed it, so happy for that. Not some kind of genius. I didn't have it at plugged at a 90 any time. So, Mouse PI for hire, potentially lower than where people thought it would be. 81. This has been dropped a little bit. Thoughts on Mouse PI?
Well, it was at 83 for a really long time.
Yeah.
And then I saw it drop to 81, and I was like, was it one of those reviews, those 0.8 out of 10 mistakes by that Open Critic makes? And it wasn't. I scrolled through them all. I was like, oh no, it wasn't that. So I'm not quite sure. A few reviews must come in at like 6 or 7 or something like that.
IGN gave it a 6. And I saw a lot of people were kind of biting back. They didn't like the review. I didn't look into it, but some people have been complaining about that one for whatever reason.
Yeah. Where did you have that one, Matt?
I had that in B tier on the numbers. It was number 24, so right behind Lego Batman and right ahead of Splatoon Raiders, above Cairn, which was dumb. But I had it as a 79 to 87. I had a pretty big range on that one because my thought was I think it's going to depend whether or not it's just a boomer shooter or if they actually have compelling sort of mystery side content for you to do. And it seems like it does a little, but I had 83, best guess came out at 81. That's pretty close to where I had it.
Yep.
So I feel decent about that one.
And Pragmata, which you already kind of flagged was pretty high on your list, 86, which is pretty awesome for that game.
My number 11 game. So that one delivered.
Yeah, because I was nervous about that. I figured it could go either way, but we got to stop second guessing Capcom and just pick up all the Capcom games. Vampire Crawlers sitting at 83, pretty good. Maybe slightly lower than where people had it. I know Marcus, you and Garrett were really high on it.
We were really high on it. I would be shocked if this still creeps up a point or two.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of reviews. It's being pulled down by that one PC Gamer 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
So, we'll see, but I think this game's going to sell a ton, and a lot of people are going to be playing it. We'll see how much the reviews kind of match up with that. But I think a lot of people are liking it. Outside of maybe a few reviewers.
And then finally, Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred, sitting at an 83 also. So pretty good.
Very good. I couldn't believe when I saw how many reviews came in for this one. And being a DLC, it was, I don't know what it was when I last checked, like 30 something or 40 reviews. That's a lot of reviews for a DLC, even for a big IP like Diablo.
Nice. Yeah.
I don't know if that's about, I guess they're treating it like Destiny expansions where it's just
could be,
the next big thing for that game.
So hard to know with DLC, man. So hard to know.
I don't play in any leagues with DLC for several reasons, but that's DLC is just really weird to get reviews for.
Bit of an X factor for sure. And then when we look kind of at the waiver wire, so we've talked about a few games here which might be worth like a second look, but maybe we'll just quickly point people like what's been happening over the past month. So we have kind of 3 weeks of data here. So unsurprisingly, Ocarina of Time and Star Fox kind of leading the way in that first week of April after that news broke, and also in the second week of April. So those remain very high on the list. Interestingly enough, I saw this kind of come up a couple times, is Star Wars Zero Company. I don't know what happened there. Maybe there's some news on Star Wars Zero Company, but
I forget what magazine it was, but it was like the cover of some magazine, and there was a feature about it. I don't even know if they said release date other than just 2026, but that was a good sign. I think
it's still just the window, but it definitely...
This is the XCOM one, right? The XCOM style one? Yeah,
which I actually think will be huge if it does come out. Like, I have been tracking that one. It's just the date I have no confidence in.
And I don't think we've seen extended gameplay at all. I think we've seen like tiny little clips of normal looking XCOM stuff, but there hasn't really been like a. I think that game has a really high ceiling, but there's just so much unknown about it right now.
And then another kind of trend.
Who's the dev of it? Do either of you guys know who the dev
I can
is for
pull
that
it
game?
up. I don't think it was anyone like that's. Oh, they're making it. You have to pay attention, But I can't remember.
Okay.
It's just those games tend to score pretty good regardless, and then you add the IP on
That
top of
style
it.
of game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bit Reactor. I don't know who Bit Reactor is.
Okay. Never heard of them.
I think it might be a mishmash of people from other studios in the past. This is their Bit Reactor. This is their first game, and I think it's just a new studio. Former devs from XCOM, Civ, Gears of War, and Elder Scrolls Online. So kind of one of these studios they've started up from former industry devs, but I don't think anything super notable.
That could be tough though if it's a first outing to like land it the plane within the year though, right? Sometimes it needs more. Yeah. I'll draw your attention also to maybe another theme that I saw over the past month, which is there's 3 kind of indie games that are kind of driving up the waiver wire, and that is the Eternal Life Goldman, which we've talked about, and I think is probably a safe pickup. Neverway, which we touched on today, has been starting to get some attention, and the third one, which is interesting, is Zero Parades for Dead Spies, which Marcus and I have been low on. Those could be famous last words. Like I could see it still performing fairly well, but I've countered it in a league, and it's not the same.
Yeah.
Group.
I had it as a do not draft.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't even know what to say about it, There's always like a world where maybe they recapture some of that magic, but with everything that went on at Zaum, it's very.
I just think I feel like there's just so much baggage around, even just reviewers' view of the studio and what happened at the studio. The reason that it's on, it did get a date just somewhat recently, so it's going to be releasing mid-May, I think. But I don't know. I could see a world, me too, Matt, that this does well, but I wouldn't want to bet on it.
Good luck to anyone who added that to their team, is how I feel.
Yeah. And then maybe one last interesting piece on of the week of April 19th. We see a reflection of some of this stuff coming to fruition. So Metro 2039 ends up being the top picked up waiver wire game for that week, with some significant dollars going towards it. And people are getting the memo because Titanium Court kind of coming up in second place with also a number of bids there. So, lots of interesting moves on the waiver wires, not as uniform this week, this past week.
Got their bids in on Titanium Court just in time. So a fair amount of them too. But
and Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced also kind of climbing up that same thing. So it's a reflection of the news. No big surprises. Anything else on kind of maybe on the waiver wire or where people might you think they should be placing their dollars at this point?
Not really, no. Like these are probably the games that are most likely to be available, that are probably for the most part the ones that you want to be considering. I don't think there's really much else out there that you'd probably want to be like rushing in to get a bid on.
Yeah. Also, it's April, so like just wait 2 months. There's going to be 100 new games that we can all bid on. You might as well try to save your money until then.
Good point. All right, let's keep it going.
Pixel Prognostications.
Okay, so we're going to make some predictions. I don't know if you're planning, there's only a few games here that, I don't know if you're planning to use the guide and what you initially said. You can feel free to change it. You don't have to be beholden to what you had predicted earlier this year.
That's more fun, though.
Okay, let's go for it. I don't know. I just do it on the fly. So we're going to see where we net out here. Okay, so starting us off, I'll kick us off, and we'll go in kind of an order here. Kiln, I'm actually hearing people not super impressed with what they've experienced here. I still think it'll do okay because of the polish, but I'm going to start us off at 78 for Kiln.
Okay.
Marcus, you're up next.
Yeah, you're higher than me. I would probably go. I mean, Double Fine is really the only part of this that I think gives you hope that it could do okay. I don't think it's enough. I'm gonna go 76,
That's about what
which
I'm thinking
might be
too.
high. Which might be high, honestly. Yeah.
I think mid 70s is what it's destined for. It's like creative, so it's not like it's going to be a total flop, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to stick with any critics or players, honestly.
The players piece, I think, is just it's really kind of a scary thing for the
Yeah.
studio. Like I don't know how much they have invested into its success, but I do not see this game finding a foothold
Yeah.
and kind of lingering in the space for a long time or anything.
Hopefully not too much, because the story with it is it was like their
That's
internal
right.
project where
Yeah.
they just kind of maybe we'll make this a game. So I don't think they're gonna wager the studio's future on it or anything. But
Yeah.
What is your score? What is your score prediction for
I'd give
Young?
it like a 75, maybe 74.
Want to do 74?
Yeah, we'll do
Okay.
74. I'll be a
Okay.
hater for this one.
I thought maybe we would have the next one already out, but so I don't know. I mean, should we do Titanium Court or no? I know there's already 2 reviews up. How do you feel?
Let's pick it. It doesn't have a score yet. I have been quite high on this game for a while, ever since I found out about it, and knowing that it was nominated for a bunch of independent game awards. Despite the what was it, a 74 by PC Gamer, I'm gonna go 85.
You're up next, Matt.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. 85.
Can you go higher
You
or
gotta pick
lower?
something different.
We need to rank you against
I'll go
Marcus.
84 then. I think it looks cool, but I don't think I don't think it's gonna be like a game of the year candidate. So I think maybe 84.
I don't want to
Do you
go.
want? Are you gonna take the? He's
I'm gonna go the
debating whether
over.
he's gonna
Yeah,
take
no,
the
I'm gonna
over.
go the
Yeah.
over. But I also want to give you a little space. I'll say 88. I know
Oh
that's
wow.
high.
Okay.
I think that's high, but
Yeah.
I'm just, you know, it's creating a little space. I
He's
think
got
it's
that
too high
history
with the
with
74
winning
sitting out
awards,
there,
so
but yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see. I never know. Moomin Troll, Winter's Warmth. I don't know what to think about this game. So Matt, unfortunately, you're up first. You tell
me
us what you
neither.
think about this game.
I think it got counterpicked in my home league. I think
Yeah.
it looks. I think probably just like a 77 if I had to guess.
Yeah.
One of those indies that maybe the people who play it really like it, but I don't know if it'll have much legs outside of that.
Yeah. I'm going to say 80 on the dot, which again is probably high. I'm being very generous today, but I'm going to go with 80 on the dot because I like you, I think so, but I think maybe the people are reviewing it, maybe they'll be caught up by its cuteness and what it's kind of doing. So
I wouldn't be shocked if this sneaks into the low 80s, but I'm not quite there. I'm gonna split the difference. I'll go 78.
okay. Next up is Invincible. I feel like I screwed up the order here. Invincible versus.
That's fine. I can go. You got me here. So I don't, unless you want to go first, John. I think it is your turn.
Is it me? Let me switch it up. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Invincible versus another hard one. I'm going to say 77. I haven't seen too much of this game. I just know I haven't been high on it since looking into it from the draft. Maybe it's doing enough to kind of break into the mid to high 80s. So I'm just kind of setting the bar.
I'm not optimistic. Again, I could see it doing well. I have heard a few people, I think it was Blessing on Kind of Funny, had played it and liked it. I don't know how much stock to put into that. I guess I'll maybe go with my gut. I'm gonna go 75.
That's funny that you said that because in the guide I have 76 as my best guess, which is right between y'all. So I'll roll with
Okay.
that. I had a
Okay.
70 to 80 range. It's former Killer Instinct devs, so I don't think
Yeah.
it's just like random new fighting game. But at
I
the
don't
same
think I knew
time,
that.
I don't think it's gonna. Invincible's a weird franchise because half the superheroes just have Superman powers. You know, like most of the character list is just people that fly and punch. So I'm
Yes.
curious how they're gonna vary the characters.
And Saros at the end of April. Marcus, you're kicking us off.
I'm gonna go 87.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're just throwing it out there based on your hype for it.
Well, I'm not personal hype. I didn't play Returnal,
Okay.
but Housemarque does good games. They're pretty consistent. I feel like Saros is maybe it's not a direct sequel, but it's kind of a sequel to Returnal. So yeah, I have a hard time seeing that this game does poorly, and by poorly I mean even low 80s. Like
Okay. Yeah.
I think that this is going to do pretty well. Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
I had an 84 to 90 range. My best guess is 88. I had the number 5 game it was the number 5 game on my rankings. Returnal was good, and Sony clearly likes this game. Returnal was always kind of marketed as like, oh, here's a cool new side project we're doing. The marketing for Saros has been like, this is the big new Sony game coming out. They're putting more behind the story, it looks like, in the visuals, and they've also talked a lot about how this is kind of a showpiece for the PS5 Pro. So I think this is going to be a big
Yeah.
critical hit. Might even get Game of the Year nominations at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to go 90 because I can't put it lower than Procopia. So I'm putting it at 90. I believe in this game. I think you guys are probably closer. I think yours is probably more like realistic, but I think it's going to be one of the highest scoring games of the year. So this is a tough one. Up next is Mixtape, early May. Matt, did you have this one? I think. Yeah.
Mixtape is my number 29 games, kind of at the tail end of B tier. I think it's got a really high ceiling. My ceiling is 86, but the floor is 75. I just think whenever a game is like this heavy on the story, I think that gives it a really wide range. And the gameplay seems like it's going to vary a lot, which is cool, but also makes it hard to pinpoint exactly where I think it's going to land. I had it as an 81 for my best guess, but honestly, I feel like it's more likely to hit either mid 70s or mid 80s than that mid range.
What do you want to put down? Should we go 81?
I'll stick at 81. That's what I got in the guide. We'll see how it does.
All right. I think 81's good as a guess. I might be slightly higher on it. I would probably myself go 83. I think your analysis though is pretty solid. Like, or maybe I should go 80. No, let's stick with 83. I was almost thinking 84, but I'll stick with 83.
So for me, I have this, as we've mentioned, in Super League. I'm a little worried about these types of games. I think I picked it. I wasn't thrilled about my choice. Feel like it didn't seem like there was anything else.
You want to trade? I will trade. I will trade.
Duskbloods. I'm gonna say 78.
Okay. I am gonna follow up with you about a trade after this. That's awesome. No, I think I could see, like, honestly, this is a tough one. I actually do think Mixtape is a tough one to land. Unlike the next one, which should be a lot easier to land, which is Forza Horizon 6. And I guess I'm kicking us off and setting a bar here. 89. I'm almost tempted to go 90 again, honestly, for this, but I think there's like a real desire for like a very polished first-person game right now. So I feel like Saros and Forza are going to benefit from that, but maybe I'll go 89. Just like that Xbox knock,
The first party. You said first person.
Sorry, first party.
First
Thank
party.
You. Yes.
Yeah. Just I was like,
I mean, you can't.
Wheels are turning. Yeah.
Yeah, they got the cockpit view.
Yeah, they got the cockpit view.
Yeah.
Marcus, what about you?
I think I'm going to take the under. I'm a little not. Really? People have been asking about Japan. Like, I love Forza. I think that those games do really well. Obviously, but I'm going to say 88.
Okay.
Forza was my number 3 game in the guide. Forza 2 got an 88, Forza 3 got a 91, Forza 4 got a 92, and Forza 5 got a 92. So that's about as good as a track record as you will ever find. And my best guess is 90, so I'll stick with that. But I think it could go over that. When they showed off the game, everything looked exactly right. Japan looked beautiful, and then they have kind of the new feature where you can kind of build your sort of home base. I think that's the exact right new feature to get it over the hump and help it not be like a Forza Horizon fatigue situation. So I think there's a chance this is like a top 3 reviewing game on the whole year.
Yeah,
I
absolutely
90 is yes. Yes, I agree. Very good. All right. Well, that's gonna do it. That was Hype Factor episode 20. A lot of stuff that we got through today. I want to thank our guest Matt, HikarW, for those of you in the Fantasy Critic Discord. Um, Matt, why don't you? I don't know. Do you want to plug where people can find you? I mean, besides the Fantasy Critic Discord, they can connect with you there. The guide.
For now, I'm just hanging out in there. If you want to check out the guide, I posted in Discord, but the easiest way to find it is actually featured on the Fantasy Critic site. Shout out to Steve for being willing to do that. If you go over to the community tab and scroll a little bit, you can see the cheat sheet and the whole PDF with the write-ups for each individual game is linked. Obviously, it's not super useful now in April, but if you want to check it out, see where I kind of had things ranked, if you want to add stuff to your watch list, feel free to do that. Otherwise, I'm just kind of hanging out in the Discord, having fun with it. I'm not trying to turn this into any sort of content thing right now. Maybe one day, but for
Awesome.
now, just come hang out and we can argue about remakes.
And Marcus, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Blue Sky at Marcus O'Neill 79. You can also find me on 2 other podcasts that I do. Tiny Game Chronicles, which is a show that we do with my good friend Michael. Every other week, we talk about games that are 5 hours or less, and we focus on one game for each episode. And then the second show that I do, or I guess third show that I do, is Brothers from Another Mothership, do with my good friends Ron, Matt, and Quag. And we argue a lot. We talk video games. It's been a lot of fun. That's a monthly show. So either those sound interesting, you can feel free to check them out.
And they talk about how negative they are about the games they're currently playing.
It's true. We do that a decent amount.
That was wild. Yeah. Yes, go check those shows out. As for me, you can find me at Jon32 on Blue Sky, also in the Fantasy Critic Discord, and Hype Factor. So we're both on Blue Sky and X. Anybody listening can send us in questions, comments for the show, which we'll be happy to incorporate into our episodes. I want to start doing a trade evaluation forum, Marcus, so we'll have to get that going where people can weigh in on people's trade options. And then finally, if you've liked what you've heard so far, please consider giving us a positive 5-star review on your podcast player of choice. It is always much appreciated. Thank you again to Matt, and until next time, get hyped.
Remember, the information provided is for entertainment purposes only. Hype Factor does not guarantee the accuracy, completeness, or reliability of any advice or predictions offered. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you are solely responsible for any decisions you make based on the information provided. We strongly encourage you to fantasy critic responsibly, and remember, this is just a game, and in no way impacts your status as a gamer. Hype Factor cannot be held responsible for any damages resulting from bad picks, drops, or overall Fs on your season.